It's Wellness Wednesdays. It's Wellness Wednesdays. Yes, even in the middle of the boss fight Song of Sparkle Muffin Kickstarter. Well, okay, 2 days into the boss fight Song of Sparkle Muffin Kickstarter, we are still doing Wellness Wednesdays. Boss fight, excuse me, Song of Sparkle Muffin is funded, officially funded. So we are going for our first stretch goal now. Yay! Funded in 15 hours. So this is exciting. So what we are talking about today on Wellness Wednesday is dealing with stress. You can imagine this has been on my mind, doing another crowdfund at a time of year I don't normally do crowdfunds. If you like this sort of content, help support this channel, become a monthly patron, patreon.com/Leanna K. I'm going easy on the Patreon this month because crowdfund, I appreciate the heck out of people who do both, but I understand, like, if you've got, some bucks to toss somewhere this month, I prefer you put it in the crowdfund because, hey, you get a cool NPC out of it. And yes, I'm wearing a ratty ass blanket because I've been prepping for a crowdfund, and so I haven't done laundry and it got cold. So I'm like all the freezing, but I can make it look super stylish. No, not at all. I look like some messed up anime character. Anyway, enough screwing around. Dealing with stress, coping with stress. You will read a lot of platitude-laden articles. You will get a lot of platitude-laden advice. You will even get platitude-laden therapy from counselors and doctors about dealing with stress. I'm going to give you real talk about dealing with stress. And this is what I wish somebody had told me. There is no way to cheat the effect that excessive stress has on the body. There isn't. You will pay for it later. Maybe not that much later. I'm saying this as somebody who, finished the Boss Fight web series and, my health just took a shit. That's what happens with extended stress when you finally come out of it. Don't want that? Follow this video. Now you're like, Leanna, how can you be giving advice on this stuff when you do it? I knew I was doing it. I knew that some of the things I was doing was unmanageable. There were a lot of unforeseen things that happened during boss fight, like COVID, like deaths in the family. And there was a certain amount of just getting through it and just finishing it that I needed to do. I'm somebody that needs to complete something. If I finish something, it doesn't matter how hard it was. It's like, hey, I finished it. If I quit, I regret it. I know that about myself. And that's one of the things about dealing with stress. In order to effectively deal with stress, you have to know yourself. You have to know your limits. You have to know what works for you. And not everyone, not even emotionally, not even mentally, but physiologically, people don't deal with stress the same way. No two people do. There is a physiological element to what kind of stress and how much stress you can manage at any one time. There's a neurological element to it. And then there is a psychological and logical, cognitive element. All these things matter. Obviously, the neurological and physiological things are things you cannot control. You can improve your overall health through diet, exercise, and proper sleep, and that can up your physiological ability to deal with stress, which affects neurological stuff as well. But some things are just genes. There are different types of stress. There are certain types of stress that some people handle brilliantly. I am much better at dealing with work stress than I am personal stress. I am not somebody who can handle prolonged personal drama. I hit a point where I was joking with a friend of mine on Facebook a couple nights ago, just saying I just have a point where everybody needs to fuck off. That's the kind of person I am. I'm an introvert. I'm a systemized thinker. There comes a point where everybody just has to fuck off. It's not personal, just fuck off. And, he's the exact opposite. He says he thrives on feedback. during certain processes. And I'm like, that sounds like hell to me. The introvert extrovert dichotomy is real. And one of the things that I have found useful is working with people of different personality types. People who are more sort of free form, whereas I'm more systemized. People who are extroverted, where I am introverted, because these are people who, when I start struggling, can pick things up for me. If it's an entire team of everybody needs to fuck off, then you've got a problem. You need people who thrive on that social contact, because then they can do other things that I am less good at. Other people are great at taking on personal stuff. They are, the person everybody talks to in their family. They're sort of the glue that holds people together. That ain't me. I'm great at community building, but again, that's work, that's systems, that's make the plan stick to the plan. Family shit, everybody fuck off. And I know that about me. And does that mean I love my family? No, it's just the way I'm wired. And one of the ways to reduce stress is to accept those things about yourself and figure out ways to work around it instead of trying to fight it. If there are certain tasks, if there are certain things are going to cause you a great deal of stress because you are not good at dealing with them, and everybody has these things, clear your freaking calendar or make sure you have some sort of displacing or compensating activity for when you do that. And this brings me to the element that I wish people had told me 20 years ago when it comes to dealing with stress. That no matter how many techniques you practice, there is only so much stress anyone can manage at any given time. All the coping mechanisms in the world, all the short-term self-destructive behaviors in the world, you cannot outrun stress that is so intense that it is shutting your body down and making you sick. There is no way around that. And that is the truth. So how do very busy people like myself manage being very busy people? Well, I joke that everybody has to fuck off, but that, sometimes, I have to say to my husband, I just need you to leave me alone right now and let me do this. That's the way to help me. Explaining this to you would take longer than me doing it myself. Now, that is not everybody. He's the other way around. He likes having people to bounce off of and, have a big group of people. I'm not. I'm like, I just want to get this done. I'll show you what I've got when I think it's at that point. Is there a right or wrong there? Is there a better or worse? No, it's different brains. It's different physiologies, neurologies, psychologies, and logical processes. Now, how much of the logical process is in your control? Some. There are theories. Stoic theory is that things are entirely about your perception. I don't necessarily agree with that completely, though it's a good trick to practice to really be able to isolate. And that's, I'm being reductive about what the Stoics say. The Stoics say, control what you can control, let go of the things you can't control. That's good advice. Your physiological responses are not something you can control. Your cognitive ones are. And so catastrophizing, while it seems like control, to be going, oh my God, I'm going to fail, the crazy negative stuff. Well, it seems like you're preparing yourself for the worst. You're really not. You're just psyching yourself out. One foot in front of the other, one task at a time. Do not make things mentally bigger than they need to be. If you're preparing for a test, it's studying one answer at a time. It's studying one subject at a time. If you're writing anything, an article, a video game, a thesis. It's one word at a time, one sentence at a time, one paragraph at a time. You can't just go, magic thesis made. No, it doesn't all write itself. And stress often comes from trying to process more than you reasonably can or you humanly can. And the stress is the buildup of you want to be doing everything now, and yet there's only so much toothpaste that can go through that tube at any given time. Some people love to be busy. Some people thrive on all this stuff going on. You have to make sure you're not dropping balls because that'll catch up to you quick. Being organized does help because then you don't have to worry about remembering things. Different people organize in different ways. There is no shortcut. You have to try things on and see what's going to work for you. But you don't do that until you accept that no matter how good you are at handling stress, there is a limit to how much stress you can handle. This is true of everyone. And the sooner you start practicing those healthy choices, the better you will get at handling stress. And it is something you can get better at just by focusing on the general health stuff, which causes more stress in the first place because it's change, but also the logical parts. I can control what I can control. I cannot control the things I can't control. This sounds so simple. It is deceptively so, because learning to let go of unreasonable expectations of control takes work. We are programmed. We are literally programmed. We are taught. We are drilled when we are in school to be responsible, conscientious students who always are organized and always have things done. That is not life the minute you try to do anything worthwhile. Balls get dropped, mistakes get made, people lie about you. That's outside of your control. What's in your control is you tell the truth. What's in your control is you do the best you can to stay organized. You do the best you can to eat well. You do the best you can to, not take on more than you can reasonably accomplish. And when you realize you're overloaded, do something about it. One of the things I had to do is put Twitch on pause for a while because something had to go. And Twitch was becoming a huge source of stress. I was starting to dread it. Not the people that watched regularly. I love those people. But the whole process of the format and what was going on with Twitch at the time, I would dread the streams. That's a sign it's time to take a pause. Is it gone forever? No. Do I plan to go back to it? Yes. I'm going to do it in my way when I can add it back on without horribly fucking something else up. Makes sense. Right. That's basically how it works. You think of stress like a Lego kit. You build. Don't leave the Lego on the carpet where you can step on it in bare feet. It's a metaphor for stress, really. Think about it for a bit. Just meditate on that. But some pieces are just not going to fit onto other pieces and then have another piece go on top of that. It's just not going to happen. It's Lego. How's that possible? Those little light stands or the trees on the old Lego sets? You stuck them on that, but you couldn't really put anything on top of it. It was the end. Because it was like a little peg on the Star Wars, the overpriced Star Wars Lego set that only builds one thing. Commitments and blanking on the word right now, commitments and things you cannot control, things you just must do, either because there's an outcome you want or because sometimes you're just stuck. Those have to get done. And there's no logicking or clevering or Batman plan seeing around it. You just have to do it. And I find sometimes it reduces the stress on me to admit that something sucks and is not fun and I just have to do it. If I'm beating myself up for feeling stressed, if I'm beating myself up for being negative or not having a sunny attitude, I just find it makes everything worse. You may not be the same. But the thing you have to keep in mind is that constantly feeling stressed is not normal. You deserve better than constantly feeling stressed. And you will not take steps to keep the Lego more organized instead of stepping on it on bare feet in the carpet until you internalize the idea that you are worth feeling good. Certainly you're worth not feeling bad. And this sounds so obvious, but a lot of people seem very stuck in better is not possible. Better is possible. Perfection is not possible. But better is possible. Better is achievable. 1, controlling what you can control. 2, not trying to control what you can't control. And it's that second part, trying to control what you can't control, that leads to a huge amount of unnecessary stress. And it is scary at first, just going, I can't control this. Let's just let it rip. I use humor to deal with that. You may have seen the stream I did yesterday about a loincloth and what's under it, and furry shorts. But yeah, you can't control what other people are going to do. You can't control the frailties of a human body. You can't control time, so on and so forth. And it's amazing how many people try. You can improve your health, but you can't control your health. Big difference. You can make your health better. You will not be able to perfect it. Getting older is just this thing that happens. Embrace it now so you have better quality of life in the long term. So practice that not controlling the things you can't control. And what does that look like? If you find yourself overthinking something, if you find yourself obsessing about something, that may be a sign, it's very likely a sign that you are trying to control something you can't control. So just move on. That's my everybody fuck off moment. Just move on to something else. And every time you find yourself going back to obsessing at that, move on to something else. Because if you've been, churning on something for, days or weeks or months and you're not making any progress, it's not getting any clearer, that's a sign you're probably trying to control something you can't control. And you're stressing yourself out. And if you need a bit more motivation for doing this, people don't like being around control freaks. And if you're constantly trying to control things you can't control, you're not deliberately being a control freak, but you're being a control freak. People want to be around people who can, to an extent, improvise, go with the flow, collaborate. And you can't do that if you are so desperate for control that you're actually stifling everything around you and yourself. And you probably feel completely out of control because the tighter you try to grip, the more you slip, because that rope's covered in grease because you can't climb that rope. That's something you can't control. And you end up stepping on the Lego on the carpet instead of picking up the Lego because you can't control that it's on the carpet and using the Lego that you can assemble for stuff you can't control. And it is more art than science to figure out what you can control and what you can't control. It is trial and error. But as I said, my main advice to you is if you are chewing on something and chewing on something and chewing on something and it is just not moving, that may be something you can't control. Go on to something that you can get more tangible results with. Try it. Let me know how it works. This is a precursor to imposter syndrome. I realized last week I got to cover the whole control thing, before I deal with imposter syndrome. So I have not forgotten about that. This is just a building block, right? Right. Okay. Help support this channel. Become a monthly patron, patreon.com/Leanna K. And back, Song of Sparkle Muffin, Boss Fight. We have a website, bossfightgame.com. Check it out. Back today. Let's go for that stretch goal. Thanks for watching.